And you're going to do the time again? Who's doing the time?
Yep.
Charles, how are you doing?
Yep.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So I've watched a few of the different YouTube videos, the more recent ones regarding Vaughn Barnett. And so for those who haven't seen him, I know a brief history. He studied law around the 80s or the 90s, and he passed the exam, but he didn't quite meet the practicum hours, and so he wasn't technically a lawyer.
Yeah.
And so now he's freelance, giving people legal advice, which I guess is a no-no with an NB Law Society.
Yeah.
And so now they're going after him, and because it's a summary offense, he doesn't have the right to a lawyer.
He wouldn't take a lawyer in the first place. I don't think so.
Do you think because I think you said, what was it, about 3 to 6 months in jail?
Yes, that'll be tomorrow morning.
And now, do you think where he'll probably be representing himself, do you think there's any chance that he could get out of it?
He would be, no, he's not going to be, he's going to be found, he was found guilty, I think, or he's going to be tomorrow morning. No, the judge going to reach a verdict tomorrow morning. And he could be escorted to jail immediately. And the sad part about this is, I support Vaughn, but Vaughn is a little bit thick-headed like me. And he wouldn't go with that extra mile to follow it. He just did it his own way. Want to do it his own way. Like me, it's the first time I ever come to St. Thomas journalism course. I should have come here 15 years ago, but I'm set in my ways. Okay, focus, Charles. Vaughn, it's a sad part. Like me, I give legal advice all the time. How come the New Brunswick Law Society don't come after me? You know, I mean, it's a case of poverty. It's a case of a person to have rights, and really, we don't have no justice, especially here in Fredericton when it comes to stories like this. Because all they got to do is right quick, they charge you with summary. It could be summary assault, summary sexual assault, and people see that, like when I was charged with assault on the front page, blogger charged with a summary charge. People look at that, oh, that's less of the serious charge, you know, you got lucky. No, it means that you don't have the right to a lawyer. Legal Aid New Brunswick will not grant you a lawyer. The judge could still send you to jail for 6 months. And you don't have a preliminary hearing to find if there's enough evidence to proceed to trial. So the 99% of the time they force you to plead guilty. And a lot of people end up in jail, and like a judge once told me, never plead guilty to nothing. Always have a trial.
Okay. And I know a lawyer friend of yours, Danny Waters.
Oh my God, can I get out of here now?
You asked him about his position on the whole thing, and really he was, when I watched the video, he seemed pretty black and white on it, that like the rule was you can't give legal advice, and he gave legal advice, and so he's facing the consequences for it. He didn't seem to be very sympathetic towards his cause.
Danny is Danny, and I always admired Danny before I came to Fredericton. He was on the talk show, and I never thought that I would see the day that I would be honored to interview him. And he's one of the first guys that I audio tape him about 15 years ago, and about 12 years ago. So Danny, see, it's like I said the word earlier, thick-headed. And Danny has the same expression, you know, thick-headed. And that's why you hear Danny voice his objection, because Danny is a lawyer and Danny been through it. And Vaughn fighting for the poor. Danny Waters have helped a lot of poor people. And that's a great man, Danny.
So where he's helped a lot of people in impoverished situations, why don't you think he'd be a little more sympathetic towards Vaughn taking more of like a freelance pro bono approach to it?
No, because he, like I said, he understands what Vaughn Burnett. I think the problem is we're not looking at Vaughn Burnett and the issue of giving advice to the poor. We get to know the Vaughn Burnett, his attitude, his personality. It's like, okay, people see Charles LeBlanc. They see Charles LeBlanc, the blogger. They don't know Charles LeBlanc, his attitude, his personality. So there's two different things here. And I think Danny Waters knowing bond and the issue, so there's a little conflict there, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Okay. So he's being sentenced tomorrow. You said it was 9:30 a.m. in your video, and now as far as the sentence goes, you mentioned he's in poor health already. So if he were to get 3 to 6 months, and say he were to die in custody there, you said there would be no inquest, there would be no inquiry. Do you how do you think that could who do you have to talk to really in legislature to get that changed?
That is changing, that changed. As a matter of fact, for years, there's about 11 to 12 prisoners that died behind bars. That's right, credibility. I better get my facts. Can I go on the internet first? Anyway, close to 10 people. There's a woman from Boys Town, her son, they found her hanging from the ceiling. And we know what's her name, Carla, Warnock. Anyway, she begged for her life at the Miramichi jail. And we have a witness, Lisa Paul from St. Mary's. And she went to the CBC and told her story that she was neglected behind bars. And CBC media, it's a story for 10, 15 minutes and new news comes ahead. It's forgotten. And so there was people dying, no inquiry, no inquest, no nothing. And prisoners were forced to walk home. After the sentence is over, you could be picked up for panhandling and kept for 24 hours. And they said, you're Miramichi, you're female, you're Miramichi, you're a male, you go to St. John, oh, go home. Like I seen Stephen Horstman, former public safety minister, he said, well, Charles, there's only a 2-hour ride from Miramichi. He said, Stephen, these people got no friends, no family, no nothing. So Carl Urquhart, the new Minister of Public Safety, I rallied him. And I had met with the bureaucrat, the deputy minister, and it changed. Prisoners are they will no longer force them to walk home. And if somebody dies, as God is my witness, hope it never happens, there will be an inquest and there will be an inquiry. So I add that in there just to make sure that, saying how serious this issue is. And Vaughn is right skinny, and I've seen people not be sent to jail for more serious offense. But anyway, never mind, focus.
Do you think they're doing that maybe just to
Send a message?
to send a message, or to silence him, to get him out of their way?
Well, see, people gotta understand, it's like, I won't mention no names, before he came the Attorney General, he said we have the worst legal aid system in Canada. Mm-hmm. The worst. This was 15 years ago. They don't want to put the resources, and people, the majority says, just don't break the law, then there'll be no problem. So when it comes to put money into jail, put money into this, the public don't see it that way. Healthcare is more important. Mm-hmm. But and then it's not good, mm-hmm. But it's money.
Yeah. Okay. That's pretty much all the questions I have on Vaughan Barnett. I know you covered the tent city tearing down and that guy that was walking across the St. John River. You were debating that, whether he should have been arrested or not, because was there any real charge before the police showed up and then he hit one of the cops?
I don't know. I was there, as you've seen the video. And see, a journalist that works for the Irving Media can call. Mm-hmm. And me, I can't call. It's like the coronavirus there. I straightened that out pretty quick. It didn't take long for the government to make me do a video that is not true, but that's another story. But I can't call the police and say, what's the charge under the Privacy Act. Mm-hmm. They're not going to tell me. Got to wait till the courts and see if they show up. But from what I'm told, he wasn't. Mm-hmm. But I wish my dog would have kept on going, because he would have rather see a dog than 3 cops just jumping right on the ice. And as for Tent City, I hope they put a memorial in there for a memorial. I hope in the spring they dig about 10 feet down, because there was needles in there, hundreds of needles. They poop, pee, everything. Mm-hmm. They have this disaster, clean it all up, put the monument, which I'm trying to get right people for some ideas, put a memorial on behalf of all the people that were addicted and died because of drugs, because that place they were called drugs. It was bad.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. You gave me a lot of information. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
You too.
So what do you, just stay there for a minute. So, Charles, what did you think?
Good, good. I like his approach, and very good, very good.
Anything specific?
No,
But
no.
did any questions strike you as annoying?
There was one there. Maybe I should start marking things down. I'm getting old.
How old are you?
60. Around 60. Terrible.
No, I'm,
It's okay, we're not. I'm lucky that I reached 60. Oh yes, it's a Scottish heart. We got none, so the blood that just keeps on going. No, it's, what was the first question again? That's
something
what,
that bothered, did anything
The history of like Vaughn Barnett, like
yeah, with Von Burnett and
and Waters.
Waters, but Von Burnett, it was, so what was the question again there, sorry?
so I asked the history of Vaughn Barnett, like how he got started into the whole giving people freelance information. Then I asked about Danny Waters' position on it.
Yeah, and it was a good point, and I think from my point of view, I never thought about it, but when we connect the personality and the job, and that's where it made, even me, I never even thought about it, just when he asked me. And that was a pretty
You're
good,
saying, you mean that Waters doesn't like Vaughn personally?
yeah, I
That's
think,
why.
yeah, it is,
It's a
like how you
personal-
said, thick-headed,
Yeah.
you know, and the job in the hand of helping the poor, and don't have access, the poor don't have access to true justice. And that's theirs, but then the personality clicks in, and
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay.
And Noah, how do you think?
I think it went pretty
Are you
well.
nervous?
The I wish I could have come up with more questions on the Barnett situation. I'd watched all 4 of the videos talking about him
Good.
before we did the interview, and I think I covered just about all I could. But I had the tent city and the guy that was walking across the St. John River as like backup questions in case we still had more time.
Yeah.
And so I used that, but I think it went pretty well.
Okay, and I'm still not clear of Vaughn Barnett. Tomorrow at 9:30, has he already been found guilty? Or
tomorrow morning,
Tomorrow, what happens? Is it?
tomorrow morning, the judge will reach a verdict.
So he hasn't been found guilty?
No, not yet.
But once he gets the verdict, it's all immediate?
Yes, and the last time this happened with Von Burnett was, I believe it was 8-9 years ago. And he was sentenced to same thing. It was Judge Richard Bell, and he was sentenced to 10 days in jail. And they just handcuffed him and put him right St. John.
How long has this processing has been going?
What processing?
Well, the verdict is tomorrow, but how long in total has?
You
that
mean like when was he charged?
Oh, you mean the
From the
trial?
first, yeah.
Yeah, there was a 1-day trial. It was one or 2 days.
1 2 days.
1 or 2 day trial, because he doesn't have a lawyer. He represents
Right,
himself.
That would be quick.
Yes, and that
No,
caused a
it's longer
problem.
when you don't have a lawyer.
Oh, really?
See, the problem is this, when they get you and then they ask you, okay, it's like any workplace. They know the prosecutor, they know the defense
Oh, I
lawyers.
know.
And when they arrive there, they see Charles. And they know, they make, it's like the Godfather. They make you feel important. Can I talk to Charles for a minute? Excuse me, friends. Okay, Charles, listen, I talked to the prosecutor. Just plead guilty, probation, 3 months, 20 hours of community work. And the best part about all this, you're out of here in 5 minutes. 5 minutes, but I'm not guilty. Oh, wise guy. Okay,
Yeah.
can you represent yourself in court? No, first they ask you, do you have a lawyer? Knowing in the area there's no lawyers around. So they know that.
Yeah.
And then they said, no, legal aid said no. Well, can you represent yourself in court? Well, I don't know nothing about the justice
Yeah.
system. Well, this is where the problem is. And then you got 5 minutes to decide. And then the week after, you let go a fart on Queen Street. But then you say, I wasn't guilty in the first place. Well, you should have thought about that before you pleaded guilty. That's why the judge asks you 3 times. Do
Yeah.
you understand what you're pleading guilty to? Then he looks at the defense lawyer, say yes, yes, say, Your Honor, yes, Your Honor. And then, it's not good.
It's a bad system.
It's a very bad situation, and it's sad. Like, I will add how bad it is. I'm sorry if you're the professor, you can cut me off at any time.
Okay, I will.
I know. It's like when I first started blogging, and I forgot about this story, and it's a sad story. And I first started blogging, then the police asked me if I was a journalist. And I said, me? Not a journalist. I'm a blogger.
Yeah.
Make a long story short, they arrested me at the legislature. They brought me at the police station, put me in a room, and they said, you have a lawyer? Oh, me? Don't have no lawyer. Well, here's a lawyer here. And I'm sitting down. Next thing you know, they said, she goes, Milky, what happened? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, Charles, just sign those papers. You'll be out of there in 5 minutes. So I said, okay. So boys, I got to sign papers. Being naive, this was about 10 years ago, maybe longer. And then I go to sign, then they say, hold it. You have to sign with conditions. Conditions? You don't have the right to talk to one MLA pending your trial. I said, I can't sign that. Some of my best friends are MLA. Abel LeBlanc from St. John. I know Abel before he was elected a politician. If you don't sign that, you're going to go to jail. I said, you know what, boys? I hear some bad stories in St. John. What better way to find out what's going on in that jail than go and arrest me? But the bottom line here, something happened in the back rooms. They backed up. But if I would have signed, and then I would have talked to a politician, I would have been done. But it's supposed to show you. Okay, sorry.
No, it's great. So I think now I would like to hear some feedback from the class. Oscar.
I talked a lot last time, so I guess my question is, you know how
Are you one of them? No. No, because we had two. Okay.
yeah, so I talked a lot from my last interview.
Yeah.
And, you called me out on that
Yeah.
because I talked a lot. So he had a really long intro. My question is,
Yeah.
what did you think about that?
Oh.
I was wondering if that was really good or maybe
I
not.
thought it was fine.
Okay.
Because the rest of us didn't know the context.
Yeah, so it's good
So
to.
I thought it was okay.
Okay.
I feel like in this scenario, he was setting the scene, or kind of
Yeah.
giving
I think it was
context to the
okay.
situation.
That was what I was wondering. I just had a
It didn't
question.
bother me
Okay.
because I thought, gee, I don't know anything about this.
Yeah.
So otherwise, if you started talking directly about Vaughn, I wouldn't have understood.
Okay,
I
so
didn't do my homework.
so to give context,
It's okay.
it's okay to give. Yeah. Okay. That
I
was.
can't remember what you did with Harry Forrester.
Because I really
thought
had
that
no
was too
angle.
much.
I had no angle, so
Yeah.
I basically was just like, I don't know, I'm going into this blank.
Yeah.
And I couldn't really form my questions
Yeah.
properly.
And
So I took a
so I
long
didn't
time
feel the same way because he was really asking.
specifically.
It was very interesting to know that he studied law, but he didn't have enough hours. Then I got it. Okay. Jessica.
I wrote down a couple notes that I actually thought that I like where you did so much homework. It really showed and it really focused. Like, this is the first time that I feel like the interview was super focused, and so it was really easy to see what you would write a story on. So I really appreciated that. And I thought it was neat how your questions weren't really. You kind of more made some comment, and then he commented on it, kind of thing. Like, some were direct questions, but some were you just kind of brought things up and then kind of see what he had to say about it. That was cool. That worked. Or for me, I thought that was cool.
I thought it was.
And then the last thing is that I like how that, like just how Jan's been saying all along, you're not, don't be afraid for silence. So you would finish your note, take a second, take a beat, look at your next question, assess what you're going to do. And I thought that was well executed.
I wish I could do that.
Well, when you have an ADHD, sometimes you can't wait, right? You just- you wanna jump
ADHD, you
in.
just go and
Yeah.
usually the time when you see politicians on the street and
Yeah.
you tackle them, you ask a question, but really you're thinking about your next
Yeah, I
question in
know.
hand. And then you go and then you look at the building, it's getting close, it's getting bigger and
Yeah,
bigger.
yeah.
So you just
Yeah.
continue and then they run faster and you
Right,
run after
right.
and you
It's
run
hard.
it. My most beautiful story, or what I really enjoy, is when I tackle a politician and they keep their mouth shut. Then I can answer my own questions.
Yeah, right. So the point is always ask the question, even if they're not gonna give you the answer,
Yeah.
because at least you can put your question in the story.
And you built with what I'm doing. It took somebody, if he turns around his size and starts chasing politicians around, the first thing they're going to do is call the police. It's true. It's true. They say, "Who's that?" Like East Coast, and then just going. But
Does he look scary to you?
no, just. I'm Scottish. So, but they built a personality. They get to know people. And me, it took a long time. Like I would take a politician. Like if you see the interview yesterday with the People Alliance, Chris Austin and then Rick Desaulniers and Michelle Convoy, and Chris. Nothing I hate more is Chris Austin. I was talking, then he goes like this. If you see the video, I grab his smartphone. And I put it right in my pocket. They're all shocked that I grab his smartphone. But I could do that because you get to know them, right? And unfortunately, with the media here in New Brunswick, you get to know them and you start doing hard investigative reporting. They say, "Oh, come on, let's have coffee. Let's have coffee. How much you make a year?" "Oh, 40, 50. "And you have a deadline?" "Yeah." "Listen, why don't you have a job for Communication New Brunswick? $70,000, $80,000 a year, no deadline." Next thing you know, journalist gone.
I know.
They get home.
Really sad.
"Oh, honey, you're going to refuse an $80,000 job?" And then the divorce, and you know how it is. So that's how they do it here.
So, any other comments on Noah? Okay, we're gonna go on to the next one, so maybe we'll be able to squeeze in a fourth person today. So thanks.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, that's a good question. You can't see it? Well, you have to sit closer. Go up and look.
Can you tell me what's written on your cap?
This one?
Yes.
This is, I had people look at me and say, "Do you remember David Alward? He used to be
Well, I know what it means.
I know.
Does anyone here understand the significance of the cap? You have to Google it.
I can't quite read.
I will tell you it.
I do, I don't have them.
I'll tell you 1 minute or less.
Okay, I'm timing it, go.
Okay, good. No, it's good. David Alward, we fought against Shell Gas, and then NB Power. There we were they made a premiere movie about NB Power, Save NB Power, Sean Graham. So Dave Alward arrived. He went 20 seats behind me. I said, "David, the Premier, you can sit beside me, Mr. Premier." And then he looks at me, he said, you never been to Larry Gulch. That's where the government brings their tourists and their visitors. It's a heaven spot by the Miramichi River and all that. So I said, "No, I've never been there, but I expect you to invite me before the next election, David." Everybody laughed. It was about 200. But this is Larry Gulch. This is where the provincial government, when they have special invites from outside the province anywhere, that's where it is. And as a matter of fact, their journalist lost his job
Yeah.
because of that.
So you're at 55 seconds.
Okay, it's pretty good.
Done.
Good.
Larry's Gulch, I'll try to say it in 30 seconds.
Okay, you got 30
Larry's
seconds now.
Gulch is this very, very high-end fishing place, salmon fishing, private. It's very private, one of the best spots on the Miramichi River. And it's where they take businessmen, and it's kind of dirty. And so somebody filed a Freedom of Information request to find out who is on the guest list. Turns out that an
Bowie.
editor at the Gleaner,
Dennis Cochran, was it? Was it Cochran?
I don't know.
Alan
I'm out of
Cochran?
time.
We don't know, okay.
Anyway, some Gleaner, some Irving editor lied about it.
Yeah, the Moncton transcript.
And who?
From the Moncton transcript.
Okay, and he lost his job over it.
Yes.
And he sued and he lost.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I thought it's funny that you're wearing that hat.
Yeah.
So that's a good question. You said what it is. If you can't read it, why are you sitting so far? I can read it, and I'm
Where do you
old.
want me to sit? The seats are taken.
Right
Want me
there,
to, like,
there's an
sit on
empty
the
seat.
floor and-
There's an empty seat right there.
And I have all kinds of hats, and I wore this one just to know
Yeah,
if
you
somebody
did
would
on
notice
purpose.
that. Larry
At least
Gulch.
you noticed, but nobody knows what it means, so